Party Prince reveling in wanton wealth. A new book lifts the lid on Mohammed bin Salman's jaw-dropping excess, including his £400 million super yacht, as the Saudi crown prince woos the West. The guests arrived by seaplane, a few dozen Middle Eastern men, privileged guests of a host who had paid a mind-boggling $50 million, £38 million, to hire the tiny island of Velaa for a month to turn it into his private playground in the Maldives. A brand new e-book lifts the lid on Mohammed bin Salman's jaw-dropping extra. He had flown in some of the world's top DJs and rappers to entertain them each night at the beach disco, which had its own snow machine so dancers could gyrate in an artificial blizzard if they so wished, and a host of beautiful women. Every precaution had been taken to ensure privacy that summer in 2015 as the party took over an Indian Ocean getaway that has been described as one of the world's most luxurious and expensive destinations. The visitors brought their own servants for their more personal needs, while the island hotel's 300 staff were banned from having mobile phones. In a further guarantee of their discretion, they were each handed a bonus of $5,000, £3,800, for many of them, nearly half a year's salary. Their generous benefactor had every reason to ensure that what happened on Velaa, stayed on Velaa. For he was Mohammed bin Salman, favored son of the recently crowned King Salman of Saudi Arabia, and at only 29 already the power behind the throne of a country that banned alcohol, dancing and even public interaction between men and women. His fellow countrymen and women already took a dim view of the antics of some Saudi royalty in London, buying up the contents of Harrods or roaring around Mayfair in Lamborghinis. They would hardly have been impressed by the sight of the rotund bin Salman, better known by his initials MBs, clambering excitedly on stage one night during a set by the Dutch DJ Afrojack, and insisting on taking over the music. The parties would continue until dawn, and then the men, all friends or relatives of the prince, would retire to their villas, not emerging again until the following afternoon. Sadly, for bin Salman and his crew, they had only been there for a week when news leaked of the party. He and his friends left hurriedly. Many Saudis were particularly incensed that the prince had been carousing at a time when their forces were fighting in Yemen, a conflict that, as defense minister, bin Salman had fecklessly started. Now, a startling new book details the extraordinary rise of bin Salman, claiming that the Machiavellian schemer combines, perhaps like no other modern leader, cunning ruthlessness with astonishing greed and extravagance. As reported by Bradley Hope and Justin Sheck, authors of Blood and Oil, Mohammed bin Salman's ruthless quest for global power, the Crown Prince also stands accused of being a monumental hypocrite. And while MBs has claimed to have cracked down on the notorious corruption of his country's ruling elite, recouping billions from hundreds of businessmen and officials he detained en masse in a luxury Riyadh hotel, some wonder how else, if not through graft, he could have afforded his own jaw-dropping personal spending. In the same year as his infamous Maldives party, bin Salman started that spending with abandon, even as he was preaching fiscal austerity to fellow Saudis. He bought a 439-foot superyacht called the Serene, which Microsoft founder Bill Gates had previously rented for $5 million, £3.8 million, a week. It had everything from a conference room and underwater viewing chamber to a giant jacuzzi and 2 helicopter pads. Bin Salman spent only half a day on board before deciding he had to have it, so much so that he paid its owner, a Russian vodka tycoon, for €29 million, £383 million, about twice its original price. The Crown Prince, who uses it to host world leaders as well as his less salubrious friends, has installed state-of-the-art multimedia equipment that allows him to address both needs. At the touch of a few buttons, it can be converted from a political summit venue to a party palace. A former helicopter hangar on board houses a nightclub complete with poles for dancers. The ship's crew aren't allowed to go there under any circumstances, say the authors. Yet even serene wasn't enough to satisfy bin Salman's nautical desires. It apparently travels in a convoy of 11 yachts, including support vessels and smaller yachts for additional guests. Naturally, MBs needed an equally impressive land base. The same year, he bought a similarly over-the-top French chateau for more than $300 million, £230 million, prompting Forbes magazine to call it the world's most expensive home. The Chateau Louis XIV near Versailles was the garish, no opulence spared creation of Middle Eastern developer Ahmad Khashoggi, nephew of the late arms dealer Adnan, who bulldozed the existing 19th-century building and replaced it with a mock 17th-century mansion, featuring a gold leaf fountain, endless marble statuary and moat, all set in a 57-acre landscaped park. The moat features an underwater chamber with koi and sturgeon swimming overhead, while the fountains along with the mansion's lights, sound system, and air conditioning can be controlled remotely with an iPhone. Reality TV star Kim Kardashian reportedly considered using it as a venue for her wedding to rapper Kanye West.